Hey there, readers, writers, and friends. Story Serpent here, and today we are talking about Nura and the Immortal Palace, which was published in July of 2022. So it's an old one that I stumbled across in my local library, obviously. And it was published by Jimmy, aka the James Patterson Juvenile Imprint, which is owned by Little Brown and Company, ultimately owned by Hachette. And if that doesn't tell you where we're headed today, you haven't been paying attention. But before we get into all that, today's random words are like, share, subscribe, Jinn. So the reason I picked this up is it promises to be about the world of Jinn in Pakistan. The author is Pakistani. In fact, M.T. Khan, which, honey, if you're writing for an English-speaking audience, don't make your pen name a homophone for something that means a terrible fraud. Just pro tip. But M.T. Khan is, in fact, herself Pakistani, and so when I saw the cover, I'm thinking middle grade fantasy adventure with the mythos of the Middle East, and that, like, I'm here for it. That sounds like a really good time, and it had all the potential to be. So let's see what it has to say about itself first, shall we? Welcome to the Siege Palace, dear traveler. Can I offer you mango lassi, or fig, or perhaps a taste of zaman water? Zamtan water? I don't know, there's a piece of tape in my way. Rude. Nura longs for the simple pleasure of many things, to wear a beautiful red dupatta, or to bite into a sweet gulab jamun. I hope I'm pronouncing these things right. I'm probably not. I'm sorry, I speak English. But with her mom hard at work in a run-down sweatshop and 3 younger siblings to feed, Nura must spend her days earning money by mica mining. But it's not just the extra rupees in her pocket Nura is after. Local rumor says there's buried treasure in the mine, and Nura knows that finding it could change the course of her family's life forever. Her plan backfires when the mines collapse and 4 kids, including her best friend Faisal, are claimed dead. Nura refuses to believe it and shovels her way through the dirt, hoping to find him. Instead, she discovers the entrance to a strange world of purple skies and pink seas, right? So the world building is already promised. I'm here for it. A portal to the opulent realm of Jinn, inhabited by the trickster creatures from her mother's cautionary tales. Yet they aren't nearly as treacherous as her mother made them out to be, because Nura is invited to a luxury Jinn hotel. But there's a dark truth lurking beneath all that glitter and gold, and when Nura crosses the owner's son and is punished, she realizes she isn't the only human who's ended up in the hotel's clutches. Faisal and the other missing children are there too, and if Nura can't find a way to help them all escape, they'll be bound to work for the hotel forever. Perfect for fans of Aru Shah and the End of Time, and Studio Ghibli's Spirited Away, which is a lofty claim, people. This mesmerizing portal fantasy will leave readers breathless as it takes them into the little-known world of Jinn. So, all of those promises being made to us about it's going to be high adventure, there's going to be rich world building, we're going to be involved in this fantastical tale, is what drew me in. I thought, I am here for this, right? And unfortunately, almost immediately, we run into the message. But let's talk about what's going well first. The prose, for the most part, is excellent. I did find a couple of typos. They were mostly real words that should have been different real words. So like dreams rather than drums, that sort of thing. So obviously somebody's copy editor didn't do their job. Some of the metaphors and the imagery are just lovely. I marked one passage where Nura feels her anger fall like the swoop of a bird, and as her mom starts to brush her hair, things like that really draw you in. So the prose is really excellent. The quality of the writing is there for sure. Once we get into the land of the Jinn and the fantastical becomes the order of the day, then the world building is at its best. I feel like Khan has a great gift for description, which most early writers do. It's one of the first things we learn how to do well, is to describe the world around us in ways that are interesting, poetic, novel, and that's what draws people into our writing. The problem is, you can have 300 pages of description, that's still not a story. So even though her description is on point, she's making a lot of the kinds of mistakes that I see first-time novelists making, many of which I made myself on my first book, for sure. Most of your side characters are fairly well fleshed out. I never felt like her best friend Faisal was two-dimensional. I did feel like he was made to be a little bit weak, and that can get us into some of the things that I went, that prevented me from really immersing myself in the story. The first is the real world building, especially around the mines in the beginning, is confusing. I can't picture what this mica mine is like. Is it more of a strip mine because Nura is gauging time by the sun? Or is it deep underground because she says it is and she can't breathe? I don't know. One of those things doesn't make sense. So I don't have a great sense of what her work environment is like. There are times along the way where Nura, being a very clever individual, regardless of her lack of education, is able to figure things out. But her ability to figure things out is made very convenient by certain things that, like, oh, this map of the palace has lots of pictures on it, so you wouldn't really have to read anything or know what the key says in order to navigate it. And maybe to some level that's true of some maps, but it did seem a little bit contrived. Nura as a character is kind of insufferable. She's a bit of a she-boss who is resentful of just about everyone around her. She doesn't want to explain what she's doing to other people. She does a lot of, no, trust me, bro, this thing is gonna work out. And then when it doesn't work out, instead of going, that didn't work out, maybe some humility, never. At no point does she really look back at herself and think, I made these mistakes. She does, at the end of the book, confront her own greediness as a motivation, and that perhaps that was part of the problem, but she never really apologizes to anyone. She has a very difficult time trying to let others help her, and she discounts others' capacities and talents in favor of her own. The other thing we get from the very beginning is a lot of strong messaging about money and greed. In fact, at one point, she point blank says, the reason some people are poor is because the wealthy won't share their resources, which is a patently untrue statement. Poverty is complicated. You could distribute all of the wealth that currently exists across humanity, and you would still have poverty crop up within a very short time span. Economic forces, things like distribution, these are complicated issues, and to present them to children as rich people bad because they have too much is dangerous. It's victimizing, and frankly, it's a bit patronizing, as if kids are too stupid to understand that while, yes, there are certain unfairnesses, there are imbalances, no kids should not be working in a mine, you also have to have individuals who are willing to build infrastructure, to create opportunities, and individuals who maybe lack education. I think there is that messaging throughout the book that education is very important, that education is a thing that is valuable and should be sought after, both for its own value and for what it can do to your future prospects. I think too much we as a society have seen education as a good in and of itself, and therefore we've gotten very into, like, I have a degree, therefore I am educated, as opposed to making lifelong learning something that we love. so that we can then utilize it to bless the lives of others around us. While I did enjoy the climax of the story, spoiler alert, this book is 2 years old. If you haven't found it already, that's on you. But spoiler alert, the treasure that Nura has been seeking does get found in the end, and it's therefore going to have the potential to change her life, her friend Faisal's life, in terms of allowing them to get an education, allowing their siblings to do the same. They're looking at the thing they find is a book covered in valuables. So even at the end of the book, she's way more interested in the monetary value of this book and way less in what it contains in terms of its value. What are the what's the wisdom of the Jinn that is contained in it? She couldn't care less. She just wants to buy things for her family. While I think that's maybe appropriate to the age that this is written for, I'm not sure it shows any real change on Nura's part. She is still a very greedy creature. She still wants what she wants. And she still treats her best friend with a lot of contempt and derision. Like, she has to be the winner. She has to be the boss. She has to be the one that gets the praise and acclaim. And the way she looks down on everyone around her means that even though the end of the book is meant to be climactically happy and joyful and hopeful and they all get home, great, I still don't like her. By the end of the book, I still don't like Nura, and I'm kind of annoyed that I had to spend all of this time with her. The book is highly readable. I should have been able to cruise through it much faster than I did, but I kept having to put it down and walk away because my eyes were, rolling so far back they were getting stuck. I just didn't like spending time with the main character, and that's always a problem. So overall, the story Serpent gives Nura and the Immortal Palace a mostly meh. It's fine. Kids will find it interesting. They will find the fantasy, the magic of the Jinn, which I thought could have been hyped up a little bit more, quite honestly. They'll find it interesting, but in the end, there's a lot of contrivance, and I wanted to like this book. I really wanted to like this book. Just didn't happen. Mostly meh. If there's a book you would like to see this story Serpent take on, feel free to put it in the comments below. Until we meet again, read on, write on, stay sharp.